with Mr. John Christie, author and famous sugar loafer, and you're sporting your 50-year gang pin.
Oh, let me tell you, absolutely. Proudly wearing my 50-year gang pin.
Yeah, that's not a lot. How many people are in that gang, you think?
Well, it varies, and we've done this now for several years. I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember if it's 5 or 6 years that we've done this, and it really is the brainchild of John Chapman and Amanda Murray, both of whom I'm proud to say are older than I am. And they created this whole initiative, and when we were first talking about it, they said, let's see if we can get people who started skiing at Sugarloaf at least 50 years ago. And my recollection is that we expected we might find 20 or 30 people, and at that very first one, we had 70 or 80 people.
Wow. Every
year there have been more. About 115 have signed up already for today, and we'll have some more. So there's this wonderful crowd of people who, as I say, started at least 50 years ago, and we're right at the threshold because it's now 51 years since the gondola was built.
Yeah.
And so we began attracting a lot more people here after we put the gondola in 65.
Right.
And so I'm expecting this thing is going to go on. And we've had some people who've been there every year. Because of the nature of our group, we lose some every year.
Yeah.
And this year, in fact, we've got a wonderful lady who's going to be, we've talked a lot about the origins of Sugarloaf on Bigelow and the Bigelow Boys, and Dick French, who worked for Harvey Boynton at the shop there, was one of the Bigelow Boys with Stubb Taylor. And Dick has been a regular, passed away last year, unfortunately, but Amanda has found a lady who was one of the Bigelow girls, which in this little book that I put together here, I talked about the Bigelow Boys, but nothing about the Bigelow girls. So I'm very anxious to hear what that's all about.
And that'll be one of the topics covered there during the luncheon. Then where does that take place?
At the Sugarloaf Inn.
Yeah.
And they've hosted us every year since we started it. And it's a wonderful time. We gather at about 11. So we can just have a kind of social time, reminiscing. Mm-hmm. And then we interrupt that with lunch. And then about 12:45, we start a program which I've emceed ever since we started. And every year they try to restrain me from being too monologic. And so, but that'll go for an hour. We open it up near the end for reminiscences from people. And I know we're going to get a reminiscence today from our old buddy Bob Kelliter, who was in the first gondola that fell off, and he has a interesting story he tells about. He wasn't hurt. Nell Platner got a little cut, but it was in the spring of '65, and anyway, he ripped his brand new Bogener stretch pants. He came into the base lodge. Amos Winter was there at the ticket booth. Bob said something like, what's Sugarloaf plan to do about these new pants of mine? And right over it, Harry Baxter was running the ski school then. At the end of the ski school desk, right across from the ticket booth, was a big toilet paper box full of lost and found. Amos said, why don't you go look in that box? I said, imagine trying to get away with that now. If the gondola fell off, you'd have to give the guy his whole family lifetime passes.
Well, that's some good times, and Sugarloaf has a rich history. There is no shortage of stories, I'm sure.
It's in fact, that's the biggest problem. Is some of the people who come down there for lunch want to get back out skiing again. So we try to wrap it up. It could go on and on and on, and we have it's just a delightful time, and we see people. Each year we see people who had not come to the previous ones, and to see them back. And some of the, at last year, Phineas Sprague, for example, and Finn's in my book. I mean, he skied up here in the 40s and got to know Amos and climbed up the mountain. And so it's great to see some of these older people. In fact, Marianne Feifel, she and Don owned the Sugarloaf Inn, was with us last year, and Marianne unfortunately passed away this year. But we see a lot of these people that maintain their connection to Sugarloaf. There's something about, as I said in the foreword to this book, Sugarloaf is two things. It's a mountain and it's a feeling. There's this community of people that, and there is no other. And I've run and owned other ski areas. There's no other ski area, I think, in the world that has the kind of dedicated group of people that, and it all is an outgrowth of the nature of the Sugarloaf skier who, especially in the early days, would travel a little further to ski a little more difficult mountain. And then thanks to the Dead River Company, the first camp I built here at Sugarloaf, I paid the premium lease because it was on the river. That was $50 a year. I could have gotten back in the woods for 25, but I wanted to be right on the bend down there in Spring Farm. And so a lot of the camps that were built, and it's amazing, I mean, seeing Amy here from Freeport, that back then people building camps here who lived in Waterville and Winslow and Freeport, who not very far away, but they started building this community.
Yeah.
Then, of course, in the 70s, when they started building condominiums, and that brought a whole new and different crowd here.
Right.
So,
right. Some great stories, and that'll take place today, and I'm sure you guys will have a great time.
it always is. Thanks for having me on, Greg.
Thanks, John Christie. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Always good to see you.
Thank you.